These old cheap. I got these for $8.
Nice, man.
$8 headphones.
Nice grab.
All right. So we are technically live. Technically. Let me do this. I didn't do a little 30-second countdown because who cares? I don't think anybody cares about the little countdown, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me roll some old theme music, and we'll be back in about 1 minute and 13 seconds. Let's see how that goes.
Hey, this is the Prophet with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain. We here to fix that. You want the news on the new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to Prophet. Hey, you talking to the Prophet. Hey. We talking condos and nice clothes and driving Lambos. I remember them night codes, we couldn't stand those. We tried to drive on them house roads, but had to stay low. Now their solutions to hard bills we couldn't pay for. I talked to Prophet to get some profit, we couldn't change the top. If it's a stock and I need a cop it, I wait for him to drop it. Ain't no option, let's get it popping. We chilling in the trap. I need some crypto, put it in my pocket by any means I rock. This is the Prophet with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain, we here to fix that. You want the news on the new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to Prophet. Hey.
There, I think I'm not muted now.
Yeah, I was about to say I was a little worried. I was like,
let's see. Let me make one more adjustment for the sake of all of our sound quality desires. Okay, I think that's going to be a little bit easier. The funny thing is when you're using the Rode, all the Rode stuff, it's great for broadcasting when you're doing one-person show. The problem is because you're going through so many mixers and all these little doodads that as you're kind of cruising around, sometimes it cuts off certain groups of listeners because of the way, whatever. Anyway, here we are. It's a pretty interesting day. So we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. We're on Periscope. We're on YouTube. We're on Theta TV. And we have a live show that's also going on Clubhouse right now. And it's called Crypto and Coffee TV, but cryptoandcoffee.tv is actually the website we built. It's a research site. So if you can get past the picture, my picture on the front screen, if you can get past all of that beauty, you actually have a pretty badass research tool there. Let me start saying hello to people, and then I'm going to introduce our guests, and we're going to have a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. So let's see. Where in the hell did we start? Let me just pick a place and go backwards. Frank Leopard, Belinda Cook, Patsy, Hologram, Pete Kelly, Scorpion, Eileen, what's going on? Sniper Princess, Johnny, Veritax, and me. Cool. Let's see. We have over on Periscope, we got Dave. We got on Twitch, we got Steve, GMAT, Scott, Pete Kelly, Ella Paul, Bitcoin Candy, probably one of my favorite avatar names ever, Bitcoin Candy. That's awesome. Michael Murphy. Over on Clubhouse, we got Antonio helping me out today. We've got Hula, Vanessa, Bobby, Adam, Haresh, Haresh, Brandon, David, Zaki. What's going on, Zaki? We had a cool, he was on the conversation with us earlier, Adam, when we were in the Cardano room. That was a really good talk.
That was good.
Yeah, we've got Eric, Damian, Shay, and Carlos. Cool. All right. So, and we'll get to the stuff here in a second, but let me introduce you guys. So Adam, who is Adam?
Oh man, I've been asking myself that same question for a little while. But I think in relation to crypto and this show, Startup Techs and Stakes was inspired by this Crypto and Coffee show about 7-8 months ago, and had some fun with it. Been a good learning journey along the way, and as just kind of going with a nice early hunch that we were all talking about, and it feels pretty good sitting in these shoes right now for everybody.
So Adam, you run a stake pool, do you not?
Sorry, yeah, I'm a horrible self promoter. Techs and Stakes is the stake pool that my buddy Matt and I run, and it's located down here in Austin, Texas, and we're just a small pool out there fighting for more delegation. And the thing that we're looking to really be a part of is the next wave of innovation, which I think is going to set apart pools from each other aside from just marketing and waving flags and buying ads.
Because essentially, and we'll get into this later, but keep in mind that a stake pool, at least in Cardano terms, can be its own business. And so investing in the stake pool can also be a proxy way to invest in some specific business that doesn't directly kind of correlate with Cardano. So for instance, like I know you have this kind of proposition you guys are building where people would be able to buy exotic vehicles. And then we would share in it's kind of an auction site, right? And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as stake pool participants, we would be able to kind of benefit in that kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, so that's the idea that we've been kicking around, and what a great place of Clubhouse to have some good idea collaboration. But in its infancy, current ideas and where, as far as I'm reading, where the tea leaves are going as far as the powers that stake pools will have, of that, if we can leverage some of that flexibility, and one of the best things about the inherency of blockchain is public verified records and transparency, and if we can bring those types of values into the online auction system where people don't think it's just a scam when you're bidding on a $200,000 Porsche or Lambo for whenever Bitcoin is 300 grand, it might set us up pretty well and avoid some tax implications. And I think it could be a good part of the market, and then help out everybody that's part of the stake pool whenever those auction fees rolling in and we're using native assets to make bids. And
yeah, I think it's incredible. So I think people are missing the greater picture of how proof of stake is. Everybody kind of understands proof of stake. Very few people understand what it's going to look like when proof of stake is rolled out in a meaningful way among a bunch of platforms, and they all start kind of specializing in all of these value adds. So that's something that I don't think a lot of people are discussing. Like, okay, there's proof of stake, and then there's kind of like incentivized proof of stake, which is more than simply getting some tokens, but you could invest in stake pools to invest in their businesses. So that's kind of exciting. And no one's talking about it yet, but I think stake pools may even offer their own private tokens, right? That based on their business. So you could essentially have these tiny equity offerings based on the stake pool's business outside of the normal, kind of rigmarole of just validating transactions. So that's like a whole other, kind of a cool thing. Anyway, so we're going to get in. I think we should get into that. Let me introduce Alexander, my man. Alex, what's up?
What's going on? How you guys doing?
So who is Alex?
It's an existential question, right? Just like Adam said. Yeah, you guys have just been in this space since 2015, involved in projects here and there, and, kind of reconnected again. I've known Nick for a while now, reconnected over Clubhouse, and they've just been sharing and, educating and getting more educated in the space, because every day there's something new and there's a lot of brilliant people behind it, hearing new things. Met Adam, I think, yesterday. And even just I was going to mention the wrap tokens and stakes. That blew my mind a bit. You mentioned a mutual fund. So just basically someone who's an enthusiast in the space and is always open to learn and give as much education as I can in my knowledge base.
Yeah, we're all learning. I mean, anybody that says they know this whole space is a liar, because, all we can do is learn as much as possible and make these inferences and these is hopefully informed guesses. So, and another reason why I try to push the whole narrative of not being maximalist to anything other than making more value, right? You can be a value maximalist. You can be a profit maximalist. You can be a wealth maximalist, but being a token maximalist is a little silly. Especially in this space where we just don't know. We just hope. We look at these projects and all of these tokens are forward pricing mechanisms like anything, where we believe there's a value disparity or a dislocation, right? Like anything that you're buying it because you think it's undervalued. If it was appropriately valued, well, you wouldn't buy it. If it's appropriately valued, there's no future in it. And I mean, to an extent, you might say people buy gold because it won't go up and they think that it won't go down. I just think that's old psychology. I think you buy something because you assume that the value is going to increase or it will hold steady against inflation, which is in itself still a value increase against, inflationary currencies. So anyway, off topic. But so what we're going to do, we're going to go right now. I'm going to jump over. We're going to roll our little cool graphics. and then we're going to get back and we're going to go through the top assets, and we're going to have all of our different takes on these assets. We are going to talk about the BNY Mellon custody, which I think it's probably the biggest story of today. We're going to talk prices. We're going to talk game theory a little bit, and then we're going to talk about these staking pools. And really, I'd love people to understand what's going on in these pools so that they just don't go staking. It's the same. You just run a shoebox full of chips in it. And I was like, no. There's a lot more to it. And so with that, let me go to our cool little graphic opening, and we will be right back in about 30 seconds. If I can find the freaking thing to queue up. There we go. Okay, cool. We're back. So yeah, that's the that's our website, right? So for those of you that are curious, when you're on the site, if you want, the research tools are over to the left. So when you're on cryptoandcoffee.tv, there's a home button, duh. Then there's market, and when you go to market, you get all of the current market prices, and we basically piped in information from everywhere. So we actually have more data feeds entering here than like CoinMarketCap and all that. And so you can go all the way through and you can dig into these assets. I mean, when I say all the way, I mean all the way. You can just keep scrolling until you get to 8,000, which I think might be a waste of time. But anyway, yeah, so you have complete market feeds and you can dig into any of these assets. We also have an ICO feed. And for a lot of you that are looking at new issues, this is kind of important because then you start to go, okay, what's the next token? What's the next, right? And so it has a list of active ICOs, upcoming ICOs, recently passed ICOs, so you can look and see what their performance was, see if it makes sense, blah, blah, blah. That's cool for, you know, especially if you have that portion of your portfolio that's like a private equity kind of portfolio. And then you have crypto news, which is literally that. So we have our little API plugins from everywhere. I mean, you know, everywhere. And so you can look at the news and it's all up to date and current, and we're constantly stockpiling more news and information. We have a bookshelf, which is books that we recommend. These aren't, you know, our books. These are just books that we recommend if you're in the space. There's certain things that you should read. The Bitcoin Standard, Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency Technologies, Mastering Bitcoin, Internet of Money. So anyway, right. And then, you know, additional resources. So yeah, so we're turning this kind of cryptoandcoffee.tv into a research site so that there's one place you can kind of go to get all your research done. Cool. Great. Now let's talk prices and then we'll talk news. So let's start with prices. Bitcoin is currently at 47,498. It took a big bump. And most of that, you know, there's a little bit of Uber news, right? Uber said they're considering, right? That's what you always say. You always say you're considering, but Uber is considering taking Bitcoin for payment, which, you know, whatever. I don't see a lot of people probably using Bitcoin to pay for their Uber rides. But again, it would be one more finger of adoption. I think the real news is the BNY Mellon news, in that they're going to offer Bitcoin custody. And that seems to have pumped it up. So Bitcoin's up 6%, like literally just now within the last like 3 or 4 hours. So let's start with you, Adam. When you heard that news, I'm sure, even if you're just recognizing it now, you hear a bank like BNY Mellon, they've got a lot of stroke. They have a lot of cachet. For them to say they're going to enter custody of Bitcoin, what does that kind of mean to you?
Yeah, so I think when you get a legit name, then you immediately start thinking about the knock-on effects where, you know, you've heard that term in crypto that nobody wants to be first and nobody wants to be last, you know, and after you have that first person through the door, you know, it opens up the door much easier for everyone else. And to me, what I think is that also for banks is that it'll also allow them to, if they say they can custody crypto and also just put some crypto on their own balance sheet, yeah, and then to then gain some interest on that, because I mean, you know, with where interest rates are, they've got to be looking at other places to to make money and to meet their fixed costs.
Fair point. Alex, when you heard this, and I'm guessing you heard this earlier, what was your kind of immediate gut reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I took a look at the article. You know, I knew that they were large, but then finding out they're the largest custodian bank, you have 41 trillion in assets. It's just more validation, as we're seeing. You know, you just can't get out of it. These institutions are finding ways to enter the market, whether that be balance sheets or offering their clients. We had mentioned before and talked about, it's just like, well, when's the time where you can't have exposure to this? So now you're just seeing that it just seems like it's that cascading effect. It's that avalanche. And if they're the biggest fish as far as the whale of custodians, you know, these other banks are going to follow suit. They're not gonna do their customers a disservice, or, you know, people are gonna move on, especially people that with a lot of money, they can go anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's the big question. So when you have someone like BNY Mellon come in, then you start looking at the other banks that may have to get put into this market to compete, because at first it was the career risk of even mentioning Bitcoin, right? Like if you whispered it in a board meeting, you know, you might be waiting for, you know, your next evaluation might be your exit, right? Like they're like, we've got a nice severance package for you. But now I think if you haven't mentioned it, I think the tide is starting to turn where the career risk is not being informed. Because at a certain point, you know, we're 12 years and change into this. How is a competent fiduciary managed to ignore Bitcoin for over a decade, the most appreciating asset in human history? Like, I get it if it had a year or two here or there, and it was this wildly speculative asset. I get that. And even 4 or 5 years into it, you could say, listen, there's no record. There's not enough data. But you keep moving and you keep moving and Jesus Christ, at a certain point, we're 12 going on 12 and a half years now. Well, 12 years and change, right? And at a certain point, you say, the risk is not whether you do, the risk is whether you don't. And I think you'll even start. I think you have the career risk of finance managers and things like that, but I think you actually have systemic risk when, you know, to back out a little bit. If we look at the economy, let's go macro just for a second. Things are not good, and we had COVID in 2020, and that was awful. And right, but if we reduce it to financial terms, the problems we're seeing in these greater markets, the fractures in these markets, the dislocation in quality collateral in repo, you know, the Fed and their ineffectual communication policy and their inability to effectively stimulate markets other than just to kind of make up cool bumper stickers and headlines that materially don't do anything because they don't actually add cash into the free markets, right? And then, you know, you look at the problems in the pension system, and you look at the problems with, and well, if you go back to the Fed, this flat yield curve that doesn't pay anyone to participate. And so there's a lot of fractures in this market. And as we're coming out of COVID, I think we are kind of coming out of COVID, at least the shocks now are somewhat known knowns, right? Things aren't going back to normal. We're not getting the reinflation that everybody thought we were supposed to get. And so people are, I believe, you know, at least most people are starting to look and go, you know, this is deeper than just COVID. This is more than the COVID shock. These are huge fractures in the world economy that can't be cured by a couple of vaccinations and a little bit of, you know, stimmies. And so when you look at that greater picture, I think that there could be an not institutional FOMO to be a participant. I think there could be institutional panic to protect your balance sheet at all cost. And so I don't know if they're saying, listen, we can make money off Bitcoin. I think they're saying, if we don't have some Bitcoin on the balance sheet, we might not exist in 10 years. And that's a different kind of panic. And I just love to get your guys' thoughts on that. What is that? What do you think, Adam?
Man, I think it's an interesting scramble for yield is the way I see it, is that, you know, crypto is more and more looking like the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry, meaning that, I mean, we could spend an hour talking about some of the issues that I see in Bitcoin. I think there's a lot of people that agree it's not perfect, but when you start comparing other markets and you start looking at the PE ratios of equities, and you start looking at the just nothing burger returns that's given in the bond market, and then you want to go further. You want to get into commercial real estate. You right now. I mean, where are you going to look for in a time like this? And all of a sudden, crypto, which was kind of really pushed back as being a real just kind of the nerd ignored kid, is now looking like one of the cleanest, dirtiest shirts. And I mean, it's just a place to gain yield when there's just not many other options is what I'm seeing. It's like,
but let me ask you, do you think it's a place to gain yield or a place to go and hide because there's nowhere else to go?
Yeah. I mean, I hear that. I mean, and I think that's kind of the cleanest, dirty shirt thing. It was interesting. I was just listening to Jeff Snyder that you guys turned me on to, and he was making an interesting kind of contrarian point that, hey, your dollar's worth less. Your dollar's worth less. It's about to be trash. Cash is trash. And he was more on the more advocating, hey, it's holding up okay. Meaning that, yeah, we know lumber is through the roof. We know there's a few things through the roof. We know food's through the roof, but also there's other inflation metrics where they haven't gotten inflation. And so, I think
to that point, I think that's the problem is we're not getting reinflation, right? So we're not going back to status quo. And I think that pushes people and they look and they say, crap, where do you go? Like if someone gave you, Adam, $1 million right now, and they said, go put it somewhere, where are you going to put it?
Same. Yeah, we're saying saying the same thing, and I think it's interesting too, where as regulators are starting to look into this, and I mean I think it's great corporations are adopting it because I think that'll make it friendlier from a regulation standpoint. But as regulators are looking into this, they're just dying to gain velocity of money. They're doing everything they can. The Fed's doing all the rigmarole and all the magic tricks they can to try to get money velocity. And one place where it's happening is in crypto. There is velocity of money in crypto. As much as there's some scammy shit out there, there's also money that is moving hands, moving around, loans being sent out, money creation. It's happening here. And so I think that'll be appetizing for that goal of gaining velocity of money.
Well said, man. Alex, what are your thoughts on that? Is this a FOMO in, or is this a panic because there's nowhere else to be?
So I don't know if we can answer that because it's hard. We're not in on these insider meetings, right? Like, what are they talking about? What we do know with banks is they need more money to lend out and collateralize, right? That's their game. So I think it's easy to see as we talk about these markets, these other markets, there's no place to go really, right? You have to go to this crypto space. So the short term is, hey, we can grab some yield. We can make people happy because I think more people want exposure. We talked about it, even the ETFs being there. Like they want exposure somehow, even if they're not handling it, because sometimes the on-ramping in this space is a little difficult for certain people, especially some of the older generation, right? Not as in tune to the technology. But long term, though, I agree with you in the sense that this may be, they might not be around in 10 years if they kind of stayed the status quo. So I think they're just kind of, again, it seems like everybody's hedging their bets against the rest of the market. I think when you look at what basically has had any success over over COVID 2020 and right now, it would probably be the PPE market and crypto. Like everywhere else has been dead, So yeah, I think it's hard to see how much foresight they have, because I don't really think banks often have foresight. But this is a major. I mean, the fact that you have the largest custodian bank, and I know there's other ones too. It's not like there hasn't been other banks that this is just the big fish, right? So I think it's more so maybe it's short term, but if they get in short term and they start making money and yielding out and gaining yield, they're gonna then basically flip it around and still be around when people are their own banks, right?
Well, and then when I like it when these banks go, well, we're going to offer custody, but we're not going to hold it on the balance sheet, right? That's the first step, and that's like just the tip, right? And so you're like, no, it's serious. It's just we're just custody, right? That's all. We're not dealing in it, you see. Like we don't trust it, see, but it's custody, and then they take on a little bit on their balance sheet, and then pretty soon they're neck deep. And so I think this probably pushes a couple of other banking institutions real quick. And I'm very curious to see, I'm not sure, but isn't BNY Mellon, aren't they a prime broker? I believe they are. I need to look that up. I'd love to do some research on that. But if they're a prime broker, that would represent the first of the prime broker, the 24 members of the Federal Reserve, the member banks, participant banks, entering custody for Bitcoin. And then I'm wondering if that gives the green light for Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo. Goldman's already talking about custody, and I'm sure that they privately custody some stuff, but they haven't really, they're kind of nebulous about that. But I think that's going to put 3 or 4 of these other prime brokers in the market. And then I think it starts to put central banks into the market, because I think they're going to have to hold Bitcoin as a hedged asset, as a hedged currency in their basket. They're going to have to finally admit that Bitcoin is a currency. There is something here, and central banks somewhere, there's going to be a first, and they're going to come out, and then all bets are off, because there is going to be a massive put into the market. Every bank that does international business is going to have to ask themselves the question. Even if they don't say yes, they're going to have to at least they're going to have to at least have a meeting where everybody looks across the room and says, do we have to add this to our basket? Like, do we have to custody Bitcoin? And I think just the fact that we've reached that point where this meeting is occurring in a meaningful way. So again, I guess I just say this may be turning from a FOMO into the market by investors to a panic trade, where people start to worry that maybe if they don't have some exposure, they're going to get nuked. So anyway, it's just kind of food for thought. And I think it's one of those things that you layer on top of your investment decisions. And, maximalism aside, Bitcoin's a good bet, right? Like, Bitcoin is my stable coin. So I understand the maximalist viewpoint. I don't agree with any kind of maximalism, but I do get it. For Joe Sixpack, maybe buying some Bitcoin and going back to Netflix is a good career move, So let's move on. Let's talk Ethereum, as we are breaking new highs right now. We're in price discovery. We're at $1,791. Probably by the end of our little discussion, we'll be at 1,800. Fees be damned. Ethereum keeps moving. Adam, what do you think?
I think it's interesting. I think there's no more interesting crypto project right now to think about the game theory of than Ethereum. I love the idea of using the assumption that everyone's going to act in their own best interest. So miners that are pulling in millions of dollars a day on Ethereum fees, what are they going to do when it's like, hey, all those fees you were enjoying? Well, yeah, they're getting cut by 20, like 1/20th of what we're talking about. And I mean, I'm pretty confident there's going to be some version of an Ethereum classic of another fork. I think the miners are going to fork and revolt. I mean, I don't know who else in the world takes 1/20th of a pay cut and just says, cool, I'll just shut all these servers down. That sounds good. And I'm curious what the knock-on effects have of that. They are disincentivized to help with this 2.0 transition. But the believers and the people in the dApps are incentivized to lower fees. So I think there's going to be an interesting revolt progressing, and at the exact same time that there's going to be in a revolt, you've got, Cardano, Near, all just making pushes to take some of their market share, so I think this is one of the best stories happening really in the world right now.
So let me add on to that and then pass this to Alexander. Let me add on this. Are we seeing, as you look at Ethereum, and again, I think you can look at it as two different things. You can look at it as a trade, and I think you can look at it as an investment. As a trade, to me, it makes sense. As an investment, it does not make sense because of the things you talked about, Adam, because of the miner revolt, because of maybe the obsolescence in proof of work. No one wants to talk about it, but come on, 600-pound gorilla, right? Like, at some point, we need to be honest with ourselves, and maybe proof of work, maybe its days are numbered in a sense, because we're seeing that at least right now, proof of stake or delegated proof of stake or, some kind of model, some proof of stake model or iteration makes more sense in the long run. What do you think about that, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just take a look at it. I mean, proof of work was the beginning, so that's what people knew, right? Then when you're examining the space more, if you just take a look at what most projects are trying to do, right? They are proof of stake. And I actually had a question for Adam about this, because just for the staking side of it, you'd mentioned, do you think that these miners, once 2.0, because you're right, they're losing a ton of money at that point. Nick's been saying before, they're basically firing them, right? If they, you have a hard fork or whatever, do you think they move to these other layer 1 protocols like Cardano, like Near, like Polkadot? Do you think they just, they made their money, they can reinvest again, right? Is this something that where you see they kind of pick where, hey, this actually is a protocol that actually will give me some yield back, and it makes sense, and I believe in the project?
Man, if you're asking me if I think proof of work miners all of a sudden turn into proof of stake miners, I don't think so at all. I mean, it's just such a different game. They're not set up for it. I mean, it's very easy to get into the proof of stake game, and it's very hard to get into the proof of work game. So, I mean, to go from proof of work to then go into proof of stake, just all these assets that you've built, all the money you put into mining, and your entire rig setup is like, oh, hey, this whole rack you've got, you can put that like right here, like it wouldn't. I mean, they might say, oh yeah, we do proof of, stake 2 over here in this closet, but I don't think it would really be a meaningful change in income source for them, as they're going to be looking to, I think, grasp onto that lost revenue.
So let me ask you this, Adam. Do you think this creates a flood? I mean, obviously, I guess it creates a flood of all this equipment. When do miners start to pre-exit? For instance, Ethereum miners right now, when do they just go, I'm out right now, because 6 weeks from now, 3 months from now, I might not have anybody to sell equipment to? And then who's your buyer?
Man,
who's buying? Yeah.
Nobody's your buyer. So I think, to me, if I were to game theory it, I would just run. I would not buy anything new for sure, and I would run everything I have out to the bitter end if I was just incentivized by my balance sheet, and I would also be incentivized by slowing down ETH 2.0 as much as possible. I would have no incentive for that, and I would just run these rigs out that I have with these. And I'm making payday right now if I'm an ETH miner. I've probably been in this game for 4, 5, 6 years, something like that. And this is the payday that I've been putting in all the work to, is happening right now. So I'm just going to try to make those wheelbarrows for every day that they last until they don't. That would be my thought.
Yeah, it's interesting. You probably have the whole mining community, at least in Ethereum's sake, is a non-compliant, community, because they're saying, wait a minute, Vitalik, let me get this right. You're firing us. And you want us to help you fire us. You, dude. I'm going to slow everything down. I'm going to soft fork every chance I get. I'm going to go with this BIP 1550. No, F you on that one. I'm going to this seems like an incredibly contentious relationship. And I like how they throw in, well, you'll still be one of the 64 shards. That'll be cool. No, that'll be fine, guys. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really disingenuous. So, I think we're just in a really interesting time, but we'll see. Again, I believe Ethereum is a trade. I believe there's a lot of guys that got into it early that are pitching it on their hedgy buddies, and that's fine. I think that there's a lot of big money, but not intellectual money in the space. Never assume that because somebody runs a fund that they're incredibly smart.
Yeah,
they may work really hard, and they may be diligent, and they may be in all the right social circles, but hedge funds blow up all the time. They get nuked all the time. Hedge funds don't last very long. They have 3 or 4 good years, 5 or 6 good years, while the markets, in a bull market, everybody wins, right? Everybody's right. Remember the meme? I think in 2017, it was, my girlfriend picked 5 cryptos because she liked the names. She bought all 5. They all went up. Now she has a talk show. Right? Like, it's cute, but when the market turns south, what is it? Warren Buffett says, you don't see who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. And so these hedge funds get melted all the time, and that's it. They're done. They have a couple of good years, and then they just die. And so I think it's interesting that right now there is a huge institutional bid for Ethereum, but I think it's a flawed game theory bid. And I think it's people looking to dump their bags. I think it's the Mike Novogratz dumping creating an ecosystem where they can meaningfully exit that position, or at least hedge their position with other institutional money, with people that, let's face it, they don't have the time to dig in. And I don't care who you are. If you're in the hedge fund, if you're in the legacy financial space, you're still trying to figure out what the hell just happened with GameStop 2 weeks ago, right? You're not really sure if the market you thought you understood. A lot of these guys that came up shorting stock, they were taught shorting is an important mechanism in markets, right? You know, people get really angry, like, how dare you? You know, how can you make money when something goes down? Well, how can you make money when something goes up? I mean, that's okay, but it's not okay the other way. Like, you need, healthy markets are formed by a certain amount of short interest. When you're selling to collect profit, other people are buying to get out of those shorts. There's nothing wrong with it. And so I just think that the psychology there is wrong. But because of the way these markets are working now, and if you study, Mike Green is great on this, because he's been really preaching about the dangers of passive indexation against active investment for a while now. And I just think that effect, this market transition effect from active to passive management, creates these weird kind of these dislocations in markets. Because, like, if you look at the greater equity space, forget crypto for a second, which is just all fucking green all the time. But if you look at the greater markets right now, do you think the equity market is pricing in the fact that this is the greatest shock the world has seen since 1918? Is that being priced in? I don't see it. I mean, Adam, do you think do you think the equity market is indicative of where the world is outside of the equity space?
I mean, I think I love simplicity, even though I'm not great at it. But the one chart I needed to see was PE ratios over the last 60 years. And I mean, it's just a hockey stick, just up. Like it looked like a parabolic stock you would never want to buy. And they're talking about the whole space. And so, I mean, it looks like any kind of new money. Who thinks that's a good choice? And I mean, you could just look at that chart, even not knowing the outside circumstances of what's going on in the economy, and say, wow, that's not where I want to be. I don't want to be going into the top side of a parabolic move, chasing that kind of crazy PE ratio, in my opinion.
Well, so let me ask you this, Alex. Do you think do you think that the world has transitioned from looking at fundamentals? Okay, I'm throwing some meat out here on this one, but do you think this is transitioned from fundamentals to simply YOLO and growth and expectation investing?
Yeah, it's been like that for a while now, it seems like, right? You just talked about these charts. It's clear. It's a clear indication. And I think people just have to talk to, and this is more from the American standpoint, but you can go from the global standpoint. Talk to them how many people actually are understanding the stock market, are in the stock market outside of a 401k or something, IRA, so when you're just seeing that we've had bull runs, and, just think about, even with COVID going around, we were hitting all-time highs, how does that make sense? Like, anybody that has the common sense, doesn't have to have the crazy sophisticated financial knowledge. It's obviously the most delusional market I've seen ever. It makes absolutely no sense when people are going to, food banks, and you've got thousands of cards, yet, Tesla's going up on this crazy spree. These S&P 500, there's a huge disconnect.
Now, I don't know if you guys really follow this passive indexation effect. And just to keep it simple, for a lot of people, the way it basically works is you have these big funds like Vanguard and BlackRock and things like that. And so when you as an investor decide that you no longer want to use an asset manager, like a financial, consultant or whatever's your mechanism for investing, and you say, you know what, maybe it's easier just to put it in a fund, put it into put it in Vanguard or put it in BlackRock and just let them invest for me. And so they invest. Every dollar you put in gets split up into a bunch of assets that they're going to purchase in real time. So I put $1 in, brrr, all the purchases are made. I put $1 in, brrr, all the purchases are made. Well, what happens is we've gone to a point now in these markets where passive indexation or passive investment, that those funds are now between 40 and 45% of the total market. So they've perverted the market in a sense, because they're not doing what a private manager would do, where he would say, we're not going to be here right now. That's overvalued. We're not going to be here. We're going to dial back on this one. We're going to rebalance. You know, these guys are run by committee, and they're also, there's probably some very interesting influences behind those funds. Those fund managers are getting courted all the time. So, but again, every dollar that goes in becomes a bid. So there's continual bias on the buy side, bidding up these markets, gapping up these markets. But my worry is, and Mike Green has a great analogy. He says, like driving uphill and there's no brakes, but you don't know it if you're driving uphill. And you can tell the person driving, hey, listen, you don't have brakes. And they're like, yeah, but we're fine. Yeah, we're fine if we drive uphill. The problem is there's not an infinite amount of uphill. At some point, right, we get to the top of a hill. And then the no brakes issue comes up as being pretty important. And what that would look like in the markets is a scenario where you then have some people that say, I'm going to take my money out. So now the main bidder in the market, the main buyer, the buyer of last resort, becomes the seller of first resort. And there is no buyer of last resort. And so now we start going the other way, where the hockey stick turns and it's a gap down market, gap, and there's no stopping it. The only forces that can stop it are these circuit breakers and things like that, these exchange mechanisms to freeze markets. But if you're having circuit breakers on the way down, you have much bigger problems than the price of the asset this second. You have really, I mean, I think that people are not paying attention to how dangerous this can become. And every day that goes on, these passive funds get bigger and bigger and bigger. The active management gets smaller. And when it flips and there are no breaks and the Mike Greens of the world stand up and go, told you so, this whole thing could capitulate. And so I don't know, that it's pretty creepy. And that's why me personally, I don't feel comfortable investing in any equity. Just from a personal standpoint. Adam, as far as like your equity to crypto exposure, and I get it. This is an echo chamber. We're in the crypto space, but again, if I handed you $1 million, how would you spread that out? If you just had bond market, equities, and crypto, where would you go?
You know, I actually would be a little bit in the bond market, and I only say that because I would want some cash on hand to buy some dips. I would want available cash at my fingertips, nothing locked up, that I could get in and out of. So if I got a T-bill, I would want to turn that over pretty quickly, maybe nothing more than 30 days or something like that, if I did it all. And so, you know, if I were in equities, I would probably try to pick up something around any type of commodities, any space around commodities. I would try to get anything as close to some hard money as possible, maybe let's say 30%, and I'd probably put 20% in cash and then 50% in crypto, because I'm a bit of a I lean in pretty hard in this space. But you know, I mean, one metaphor on the passive, because I follow Mike Green as well, and big fan. It's weird how he's anti-crypto right now, but you know, I see this whole equities market and this whole passive index fund as just like, I'm pretty sure most of the audience here has been to Vegas or seen somebody there, but it's just like somebody's just sitting at that blackjack table and they've got just a big pile of chips and they're way up, you know, and it's like midnight, they've had 4 drinks. You're like, oh man, you're way up. Like, hey, dude, cash out, man. Take some off the table. It's like, no, I'm winning. I'm on a streak. And it's like, he's like, they keep feeding me free drinks, so I'm getting my drinks worth. I'm like, I hear you, man. Just cash maybe half of that out. Nah, I'm gonna let it ride, man. I'm gonna sit at the table, let it ride. It's like, all right, man, I'll check you in the morning. And everyone knows how every one of those stories ends, and you don't know what time it ends, but it ends. And
does it end in us buying Tesla?
Man, it ends in your friends kind of picking it off the floor and dragging it back to bed to get some sanity.
And then you're like, I could have been a contender.
But I was up. I was up, man. I'm like, you were up in fake money. You know, that was kind of money, not real money, you know.
You know, that's actually, you know, what you say is actually interesting. You know, the kind of money thing that gets to the, you know, when you look at non-inflation adjusted assets. And so if you say, okay, forget inflation for a second, forget debasement of currencies, let's look at some good stock markets. Well, Venezuela's been kicking butt in their equities market if you don't count debasement of the currency. So if you ignore that little thing, you know, Miss Lincoln, other than the obvious, how was the play, right? So, so it's like, yeah, in nominal terms, some of these markets can look really good, but in real terms, they can look downright awful. And while I don't think we have inflation right now, I mean, we don't have inflation. This lowest CPI print was December in like 12 years. So this argument that they're just flooding the world with currency units is not accurate. And even if they are, they're not flooding the economies with currency units sufficient to make up for the losses that everyone took over the last few years. So it's like until you fill up the moat, you can fill up the moat to recovery, but that's not growth, right? Growth means getting back to a trajectory that is constantly improving, expanding an economy, free floating credit and cash availability. And that's the inflation that we want. Why? Because you have employers and having a pull forward. They're saying, I think because the economy is expanding, employees' wages will become more competitive. I'm going to hire some people right now. I think prices on my fixed goods will become more expensive. I'm going to go ahead and pull forward. I'm going to buy those goods now. That's the good kind of inflation with an expansion of an economy. But you can't go the other way and go, well, listen, all we have to do is just create inflation. If we create inflation, everything else will just show up, right? You can't print prosperity. And I think that greater argument is missed by a lot. Let's go down the list. Okay. Cardano, 95 cents, 95.6. What in the hell is happening with Cardano, Alex?
I think you're just seeing that people, this is where I think where the issue with Ethereum, where we're talking about, you know, I don't want to necessarily flag them as this dumb institutional money is going to Ethereum, not understanding potentially the issues in the space. I think a lot of smart money is seeing the team behind Cardano, the rollouts, where they're at, the partnerships, the government partnerships coming on, where basically this space, it's you're starting to see it's eating it up. And adamant, it's these layer one protocols are eating up part of Ethereum. And that's kind of crazy when Ethereum's jumping the way it is too, right? So I think you're just seeing a lot of educated people on the space feel really good about Cardano and its future. So that's why you're seeing this crazy bump over 7 days. And it's along the lines of the news. It's almost like it's actually following suit, right? It makes sense of why it's up. It's not on the speculative issue like some of these other coins. It is going with the rollouts of and the test nets that they're at. So I think it's just you're looking at people who are in the space, and these are other protocols too. You know, we can go down to some. We'll get to some of them before or later. And it's just smart money coming into that space and trying to hedge against Ethereum's problems, because Ethereum still has a long way to go before it's that bright shiny object that everybody wants it to be.
You know, I think it's a combination. I think it's some hedging, right? Hedging your bets, especially if you own Ethereum and you're way up on Ethereum. It only makes sense to go buy some DOT, go buy some Avalanche, go buy some Near, go buy some Cardano. Why not take a little bit off the table as a put, right? Adam, when you see the rollout coming, but let me just add, I also think there's a fair amount of speculation and a little bit of YOLOing right now because, you know, people don't often look at the circulating supply and the market cap and things. Those kinds of things don't really matter. And you look at Cardano and you say, it's $1. Ethereum 1,700. If Cardano got to 1,700, like, whoa. Slow it down. Slow it down. You know, so yeah. I don't know if that argument's been made yet. I think there's some YOLOing in this. I think there's some pumpiness to it. I personally don't think, and again, I'm a huge Cardano advocate, but I don't think this price is justified I like it. I'm very happy with it, but I'm not comfortable with this. Now, 3 weeks from now, when Goguen launches native assets, okay, then this is a different story. Then let's see this bad boy in action. But right now, it's like buying a new car and you've ordered it and you're talking it up among your friends, but they haven't even delivered it yet, right? The car that hasn't rolled off the showroom shelf. It's, you're like, man, this thing's going to be fast. It's going to be, it's going to be a lot of things. But right now it ain't shit because you don't have it, right? You can't drive it over and take me to McDonald's in it because you don't have it. So I think that's where we're at. I think there's a lot of marginally rational / irrational exuberance.
Well, there's definitely irrational exuberance, but still, the thing is, though, you still mentioned you're talking about a 3-week time frame versus a 12, maybe 18, 20. That's the thing, though. So yeah.
Let me ask you this, Adam. What do you think? So, what does Goguen mean for you?
Yeah, I mean, Goguen is to me this big like, all right, all the hype has been built up. When in the nuts and bolts, can you prove that you can ship something at this scale and ship it with what's promised? And I mean, just a quick note on what you're saying about speculation is, I think it's good to have one foot in the reality bucket of like, hey, there's a lot of things that aren't out yet. There's a lot of promises, there's a lot of speculation, and then one foot in, what could this be? Because we're all obviously front running what Cardano could be before it's actually there. And I heard an interesting analogy about Facebook in the mid-O's and about how people were basically front running Facebook and saying, hey, and they looked smart later on when they weren't showing profits, when they didn't have any money. They said, no, look what this can be. We see, we're reading the tea leaves and we see this future and how that can look like. And at the time there weren't really profits, but later, because they added everything up, they looked smart later. So I think it's good to be honest with yourself that yes, we're still speculating. And at the same time, allow your creativity to think of what this could be if, all these promises are made good on that look like they will.
So quick yes or no, and you can qualify it. Some people are saying, can ADA do a 10x from here? What are your thoughts, Alex?
A 10x from $1. Because we're at 96 right now, right? Let's just say, in what time frame are we talking about?
Let's give it 24 months.
It's tough to see. I think it kind of, you have to look at that. It really, I think, kind of depends on Ethereum, and then that'll be more speculative if it does do that, right? I would say it's probably more of a 3x in that time frame, in my opinion. Maybe if you go a 5x, but 10x is a lot. In that frame, I don't see it. But this market, again, the crypto's surprised me millions of times, so I can't just say no, but I don't think so.
So, Adam, what are your thoughts?
I'm also at a no. I mean, I think at some point we're going to see a bit of a retracement. I'm not planning on selling either way. Definitely not interested in paying the taxes on that transaction. But I'm with Alex. I actually see a 3x. I think in 24 months, I think's reasonable. I mean, if they hit their goals, they're talking about in 2024, 2025. I think that hit that 5-year plan where they really are have really proven out everything that they're looking to do in Africa and other developing countries. Yeah, maybe $10. I think a third of a trillion market cap could be justified at that point.
So let me tell you what I think. There's a couple ways to look at this. One, we're not counting any kind of currency debasement, right? So we're just saying in real terms what could occur, because obviously if the US dollar did eventually get flushed down the toilet, everything would look great, but in real terms. The second thing that I always think about is what's the addressable market? And in my opinion, the addressable market is about 1/3. That would be, to me, great success would be 1/3 of Ethereum's current kind of market, right? DApp market and smart contract market. So Ethereum at a market cap of 200 and change billion. So a third is 65-ish. And Cardano is at 30. So if they grab 65-ish, that's a 3x, right? That's a Cardano at about $3. But we all know that, these prices don't track perfectly with their value. So then you add on the speculator's bid, and I get a number in my mind that's between $3 and $5. To me, that's palatable. Now, I think that sometimes we don't realize we're only in about a $1.5 trillion total crypto market space. So if that space swells to 50, 100 trillion, a quadrillion, if they start tokenizing every other asset on the planet and all the legacy markets come in and all the notional sovereign currencies come on board, then you have a potential where the entire market space does 1,000x. Now, does that mean that these specific assets would do? No, of course not, because all the money doesn't come from legacy and pour into our favorite 5 assets. But there will be some runoff where they will invest in this space, as kind of a call against the greater digital asset space. So in that space, you could say, well, maybe the crypto market, just as it stands now, maybe it goes to 100 trillion. So then you say, well, then we go from $3 to $5 to, $300 to $500. And what would that mean for Ethereum? Well, it could mean, $17,000 or $100,000 a token. What does that mean for Bitcoin? I don't think anybody right now rolls their eyes anymore at the idea of $1 million Bitcoin. It used to be, a few years ago, you'd be like, yeah, right, whatever. It had one run in 2017. Now I think it's an actual decent argument that Bitcoin is very likely to touch $1 million in the next 4 to 5 years. And there's a bunch of ways you could reach that. So I guess what I would say is, these price assumptions, they're based on right now bucks and right now market caps and right now addressable market. But I think that changes over the next 5 years pretty dramatically. So in right now bucks, yeah, I think $1 to $3 makes sense, and maybe $3 to $5 if Goguen rolls out. But in next 5 year bucks, this could be $100 token, and we could have $100,000 Ethereum, and we could. I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
No, that's a good way to put it, because we're really still in the infancy stages of how much money's in the space, right? We think that because we're so happy that it has, $1 trillion+ market cap. But you're absolutely right. If that money gets pushed in, and you're talking about tokenization of everything, where you almost have the equity market here in its own, unique way, then absolutely that does change price models 100%. But, we're not there yet, so it's kind of hard. But if we do get closer to that, or there's a big swell of money, then all of these things will come in and pump up to prices that weren't predicted previously. Or if people were, then that's what I think they were getting at.
What do you think, Adam? What's your thoughts on, just that external swelling, or the swelling of the entire crypto space, and what kind of price effects that could have? Because I think sometimes people forget that. They look at the price chart right now and they use that as some kind of proxy.
Yeah. I hear that. And I mean, I'll say this is that I allowed myself to be real skeptical the previous 2 days. I looked up every contrarian guy. Mike Green was actually real contrarian for me. And, about how really this whole space is in over its skis. And, today I'm going to let myself be positive and just enjoy all this green here, how much it's been. So, I mean, that's how it goes. I think there's, trying to find some balance there. But, I'm with you on the entire space expanding, and I think if and when the entire space expands, there's also going to be more killers, and then, then the next headlines, maybe in a couple of years, will be the Cardano killer, and I'm not sure that game ever ends. And that these players and now are the last players to come. I think the entry ramp is pretty I'll say short, with just how open sourced everything is. It invites new competition pretty regularly. And so with a large expansion of the space, I think we bring in more developers, more projects, and it just gets wider and vaster in the competition aspect as well. But, I mean, I'm definitely with you, and I've definitely been enjoying that thinking and that mental experiment about buying the highways and the railroads and the layer 1 protocol solutions, and I like that way of thinking. Then try to chase every dApp, chase what they're going to be built on, and I can appreciate that thinking.
So let me ask you guys this real quick, and then we'll move on. Cardano, does it break $1 today, Alex?
If it doesn't break it today, it'll break it early Friday morning.
What do you think, Adam?
Let's say yes. It's positive Thursday, so we're going to say yes.
It's Tuition Thursday. Okay, XRP. Oddly, I guess you can't keep a good man down, and you can't keep a bad man down. I'm not sure what's going on with XRP. It's highly illiquid in the United States. It's tough to get a hold of it. It's tough to trade it. Is the illiquidity what keeps the price moving up? I mean, why? Who's buying XRP right now? Alex?
I kind of shocked. I hadn't really been paying attention. I know it's been on that, and I'm looking at the price right now. I will say my friends in traditional finance absolutely love XRP, and that is the U.S. side of it. And we know that, SEC, again, it's tough to talk about because there's so much stuff, that could be completely fine, and they tack on some fines. I mean, they have the groundwork with these banks, the partnerships. It's just, you're right. It's just like you can't keep a bad guy down. I don't know what's pushing the price. I'm shocked, honestly, that it's at 51 cents. But it still is, and there's some other, one other direct competitor with it. It does have a great use case still. Maybe people are really still holding on to that fact. I'm sure there's some happy XRP bag holders right now. That's what I will say.
Let me ask you this, and then Adam, I'll have you kind of give me your thoughts. Do you think, I've been seeing XRP track pretty closely with Bitcoin. Is this an issue where as Bitcoin goes up, even illiquid assets that are priced in terms of Bitcoin go up because there's no sellers at this point? Like, we've reached the point where anybody that's holding XRP is clearly not willing to let go of it. There's really no way to buy it unless you go to these kind of weird kind of exchanges and stuff like that. And maybe the experience isn't great. So for the most part, do you think it's just floating up with Bitcoin, or do you think it's still got its own story?
That makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, I think this whole market, sometimes Bitcoin kind of is the jumpstart things, right? And then they see it. That's great because this is kind of the king currency on this space. Every pairs with Bitcoin on these exchanges. So that probably does hold some weight. I think you have to really examine it. I just don't know, because XRP is just an enigma to me, honestly.
Man, I think so far is like, if you want to rank what's the wackiest crypto stories of 2021, Doge and XRP are in a head-to-head race. Like, they are just fighting for number one, because it's weird to me of like, XRP is like, we're pro-regulation, we're buddies with the government, we're gonna be friends with the man, and they're the one token that the man is they're under investigation with the man they're supposed to be friends with. And it seemed like their whole value prop was that we're going to be government friendly and we're going to be privatized, we're going to go public soon. That's who's effing them. They're currently being effed by the people that they were saying that they're so entrenched with, and people aren't running for the exits. And I'm as baffled with that as I am with Doge, because I get the technology, but the value prop and how they went about it, and like, hey, we're not punk rock and decentralized. We're going to have centralized servers, and we're going to do this more like a corporation. And then they're getting pulled in by the SEC and thrown on the bus and beaten around, and people aren't running for the exits. And I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, it's been kind of a quandary for me. I think I'm not going to hold it because I just think there's too many other opportunities. But, it's done pretty good. Listen, XRP is up 74% over the last 30 days, 22% on the week, almost 23% for a token that's not really being traded in any meaningful way in the United States. Now, there's other corridors, but my contention is this is really actually positive for XLM, because if you liked XRP and you're a banking institution, you might now take that meeting with the Stellar Foundation that you might not have taken before, right? Because you might look at this situation and go, man, this case could drag on. These things, it's not like a speeding ticket. You don't go write a check and it just goes away. This is the Southern District in New York. It's the same people that are going after Tether. That case has been going for over 2 years, right? Indictments and, just motion after motion after motion and appeal. I mean, these things just don't go away very quickly. Now, on the other side of it, Tether is still trading. So
Yeah, that
like, I guess we'll see, right? Moving down the list, Polkadot 24 was just touching $25. Protocol layer solution. Let's just go yes or no. Polkadot, Alex, yes or no?
in what regards?
Buy it, sell it, hold it.
That's still a buy for me.
Buy it. I feel like I don't have enough.
Yeah, me too. I feel like I could use more. XLM, buy, sell, hold. Alex,
Buy.
Hold.
I'm a holder. Well, I'm right on the edge. I was a buyer at 30 cents. I don't know if I'm a buyer at 44 cents. Let's talk Atom. For those of you that know about it, Cosmos protocol layer solution, kind of elegant. It's been on a bit of a run, 210% on the 30-day, 96% last week. Jesus, 21% today. Yeah, it's having a bit of a nosebleed. Buy, sell, hold, or just kind of patiently watch. Alex?
Oh, that's another buy for me.
Watch for me.
It's probably a buy for me. I like these protocols, man. I like infrastructure plays.
Okay.
Theta TV, Theta in beta. Buy, sell, hold. Alex?
I'm gonna sound again. I think it's a buy. I like that they're in their beta stage and where that price is. They've got a lot of interesting, they just getting cast on Theta right now. I like that incentive for especially, we'll go even to the influencer side of things. If you can get your audience to get paid in a token, it's the incentivification of things. And I love that model, especially going forward in the future. So buy.
Adam?
I'll say buy, if nothing more than just the rebel in me that wants to see them take some market share from YouTube. So,
and speaking of our Theta fam, let me say hello to Chaotic, BP Brothers, Save Strong. Let me say hello to Stress Relief. Who doesn't love stress relief, right? Money Maker, that's a good one. Well done, Money Maker. Let me say hello to Bill and everybody. Luis, that's watching us over. Philippe, good group over there. Good group. Galatia. Pronunciation. Oh, I'm good at money. I'm really bad at pronunciation. Joe Pirate, Crypto Fanatico. I hope you guys are all doing well. Okay. So, Frank Leopard, what's going on? S2K Hobo, man, everybody just came alive over on Theta. They're like, we're here, dummy. we're here. I get it. We love it. I am still a buyer of Theta. It's a buy for me. Let's talk. And I know a lot of people are not big Neo fans. Neo, smart contract platform, Chinese, basically. For me, it's, I hate to say the Ethereum of China, but it's definitely a Chinese protocol layer that is similar to Ethereum. Difference is they have their own gas token. I do like that. I think it makes sense to have a gas token so that you don't have that kind of fee paradoxical kind of situation. Buy, sell, hold, or watch, Alex?
That's a watch. I like that extra option. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, watch just because I don't understand enough. I need to learn more.
Okay, well, if you've been watching Crypto and Coffee, we've been following it since it was $11.
I have. I just haven't done my white paper. I haven't. I feel like I gotta hit some checklists before.
Yeah.
It.
No, I agree. It's actually a watch for me. I got out of my position back in the day. I wrote it from $1 to, I started selling at $56 and I sold my last tokens at 180, I think. So yeah, I mean, I had a good run with that one. I haven't re-engaged, but I am watching it pretty closely. VeChain, buy, sell, hold, or watch, Alex?
Oh, that's an absolute buy. Absolute.
Adam, you're a buy?
Buy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still a buyer. So my old thing was I would buy $3 worth every day. But I've been buying for so long that I have like 600,000 of these things because $3 a day.
Right.
And so that's just dollar cost averaging. It'd be funny to look. I think my total investment's probably, I don't know, 5-10 grand. But yeah, it's just kind of funny to watch this thing move. Graph token having pretty good little run today. So, they're up 80% today. Coinbase Venture, it's up 600% on the month, 140 last week, 80 of that today. Buy, sell, hold, or watch, Alex?
I think it's, where are we at? What were we at in the price on it today?
We're at $1.98. It was $2 a second ago.
I think that's I'm going to go buy. I like, especially as you broke that down for me, I like what that does. I think that really opens up the crypto space or the digital asset space it's really, that's a unique token. So I'm going to buy. I think they're they're very unique.
My only worry, and Leroy and I spoke about this morning, my only worry is they are really tied at the hip to Ethereum-based projects. And I'm just worried that the fee paradox at Ethereum starts to infect other assets that are in and around the space. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm a buyer here personally. I think I am a hold. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Well, my first thought is that I need to get dive deeper into coinalert.app because I want to be on the front end of this rather than the back end of this, because I mean, those kind of green candles scare me a bit. But for the people that were on early, because I was definitely listening to your show a month ago when you were talking stuff before this 80%, 100% jump. So, to me, it's a watch just when I see 600% in 30 days. But I mean, it's got a great narrative.
You mean that's not normal? Well, in the crypto space, we sure are given these ridiculous gifts, and and expat Matt says GRT market cap is huge. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if you have a picks and shovels play, which I look at Graph Token as a picks and shovels play, and it makes life easier and it engages new developers. I think that's incredibly important. So for me, it's a hold and a watch. Would I take some profit here if I was one of these people that got in at 20 or 30 cents? Absolutely.
Definitely.
I think it's gone real fast. And Near Token is the last on our watch list. It's up 128% in the last month, 37% last week, 8% today. It's a Coinbase venture. A lot of other Coinbase venture products are porting over to it. It's not currently available on Coinbase, but I guess we can assume, and it's a protocol layer, so I guess we can assume that it will show up on Coinbase at some point. And I guess knowing that, buy, sell, hold, or watch, Alex?
Buy, because if it ends up on one of the major exchanges, that's just a price bump immediately. So you'll gain profit from that alone.
Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm buying just on the narrative.
Yeah, I'm adding. That's one that I hold that I'm adding that I don't think I have enough of. That's one of those ones where I'm uncomfortable because I think they have too minimal a position. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, let's kind of back out from prices just a second. And as we kind of close up today, just give me your thoughts. We'll start with Adam. Just your thoughts on the market right now, and what's the theme that you're paying most attention to right now as we move into these next couple of weeks?
I think it's interesting about entering into now this is that euphoric kind of stage. I think this is really when the rubber hits the road about checking your emotions. I think to be some practicality in this time is maybe the best advice that I'm trying to give myself. When you see some numbers on a screen that you may have never seen before, which I'm including myself in that. So I think that, there's some powerful changes here. And at the same time, I think it's exciting for what's ahead and what's to come. So I think, just weighing that intelligently and calmly, I think is maybe the best advice.
Alex, closing thoughts and kind of under your main theme that you look at the market from right now.
Be careful. That's the one thing I would say with the market. I think you have to examine a buying strategy. You have mentioned, and Nick, I know you, picks and shovels, layer one. I think you have to understand what you're buying, why you're buying it, kind of trying to give those price models the sense of are things going to, is more money going to come in? So, pay attention. But I think right now where we're at is take some profits too. Don't be afraid to take some profits right now.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important. Look, if you're up a 10x on anything, it's okay to take 20% to the sidelines, right? It's okay to take some profit and push it back into Bitcoin. I've been doing that with my clients all morning. Like, it's okay. And I think we will probably see some selling off over the weekend. I think we could see a pretty quiet weekend. But again, we're in the network effect stage. This isn't a bull market or a bear market or anything. I don't think we're there for years. I think this is just some panic, and people are chasing candlesticks maybe a little too much. And I think they should be kind of going into those fundamental layers. That's why when I see a near token, or I see Cosmos, or I see Cardano or DOT, or even Ethereum moving up really fast, I'm not as worried about those moves. I feel a little bit more confident. When I see the dApps moving, when I see exchanges moving, Binance token moving, which we all know is clearly an unlicensed security, where they burn half the token in a routine basis, and 90%. You guys know that the Binance chain, 90% of the activity is in one asset, right? People don't talk about this. There's one asset, and it's not Pancake Swap, by the way. There's one asset. I think VX. It's anyway. It starts with a V, XVS or a VXS, whatever. That's 90% of all the transactions that occur on Binance chain is one asset. And so I just think people may want to take a closer look and not FOMO too hard. Also, remember, if you're leveraging Binance chain, you're leveraging an exchange. You're trading out some kind of decentralized network for CZ, the guy who was, pumping and promoting DeFi projects with leverage and then going and erasing tweets. So I don't know. I'm not super comfortable. If you use Binance, cool. Hold BNB, it lowers the fees, and it seems to be appreciating. But the way it's appreciating looks kind of spammy and scammy to me, and I'm just not comfortable with that ecosystem. So I wouldn't hold it in a meaningful way. I just want to throw that out there because I was getting people hitting me up like, what do you think? What do you think of Pancake? I don't think anything. If you name your goddamn exchange and your platform after foodstuffs, I'm out.
Whenever we're wealthy, Nick, we need to buy banners on the side of the street that says, when things are up 6x, it's not the time to buy.
Yeah.
20 to 120, not the time to buy, man.
I think that's the greater theme for me is don't go chasing the price. For all, a lot of people right now are just chasing one green stick to the next. And they're like, I want to be a part of that. And they think they have to make they have to be on every asset that moves up and every single, I've got to be a part of all of them. No, you don't. Pick a handful of assets that you understand and invest, where your level of risk aversion is. If you can sleep at night, I think you're there. And, hopefully calmer heads prevail. There will be some profit taking. No one's going to sit on this green forever. They're going to convert. And when that happens, a lot of people will panic and think it's the end. And that's it. It's over with. And here come the stupid ass news articles, the contributors to Forbes and Bloomberg and all these other numbnuts that come out that don't own any crypto,
right,
and that have never owned it. And they are sour as F. And they're going to tell you why Bitcoin's going back down to 12,000. The same people, by the way, that were telling you that Bitcoin would never touch 12,000 are going to say that it's going back down to 12,000 and that we're all stupid and they know everything. And that's why they make $8.50 an hour writing, opinion pieces for Forbes online. Ah, man, does that make me sour of their sourness?
Yet the bank that they bank with is now taking custodian positions.
Right. They'll ignore those things. So yeah, thanks everyone. This was a lot of fun. We're going to continue the conversation over on Clubhouse. So for anybody that's on Clubhouse, please stay with us. And we're going to open the room up and have a little fun as far as on Twitter, Twitch, Theta, YouTube, Hootube, Periscope, Facebook Live. We're going to bid you a fond adieu. We'll see you tomorrow. Adam, thank you so much. Alexander, thank you so much. You guys are awesome. You're way awesomer than me. And I love it. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I might have all the money. Don't do anything my poor insolvent grandmother won't do. And she's smoking tinfoil bongs. I don't even know what that means, but that's what she's doing. That's today's drug of choice. I'm out.
Profit with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain. We here to fix that. You want the news on the new stocks? This where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to profit. Hey, hey, you talking to the prophet. Hey, hey. We talking condos and nice clothes and driving Lambos. I remember them night codes, we couldn't stand those. We tried to drive on them high roads, but had to stay low. Now there's solutions to hard bills we couldn't pay for. I talked to profit to get some profit, we couldn't change the top. If it's a stock and I need a cop it, I wait for him to drop it. Ain't no option, let's get it poppin'. We chillin' in the trap. I need some crypto, put it in my pocket. By any means I rock. This is the profit with Nick Black. It's time to chit chat. You know nothing about blockchain, we here to fix that. You want the news on them new stocks, this where you get that. So go and grab you a nice chair. It's time to sit back and talk to profit. Hey, hey, you talking to the prophet. Hey, hey, you talking to the prophet.